Okay, welcome back to Hangman. On this version into our text-based adventure, we're looking at, well, quite frankly, failure conditions. A game's brilliant if you can always win, which ours can do at the moment if we keep guessing letters. However, we want it to, if they've guessed an incorrect value, that you've only got so many tries. We're kind of building the gallows, but in a text-based adventure. So let's have a look at the code. Okay, so to show you exactly what I mean is that we can now move on to our next piece of code. The trouble is, if you look at what I'm entering in the shell, I can keep guessing letters that don't exist in that word whatsoever, well, until my computer shuts down because I haven't plugged it in. It will keep going. There's nothing so far that says stop. So we're going to add a new variable that's going to count how many times we get the word incorrect. Or in this case, our letter incorrect. Let's have a look. If we put it just in the while loop to start us off, it's kind of like a counter, isn't it? Sort of our incorrect guesses counter, or number of guesses. We don't want the whole number of guesses because that could mean the true ones as well. No, I don't like guesses counter. False guesses. Yeah, let's stick with that one for a moment. I'm not wanting it in the while loop because otherwise every time I loop through the while loop I'll set it back to 0. So if I get it wrong I keep getting reset to 0. Let's not put it there. Let's put it just above the while loop before we go in. Now at the moment I might think about putting this right back at the top of my code afterwards because that's where all the rest of the variables are. And let's print out how many false guesses we've had so far. Be a nice way of tracking all of our errors as we go through. F5. So I'm guessing A, and at the moment our counter isn't going up. So I need to find a way of making sure that every time I hit that piece of code, which is there, chosen word does not contain guess, that I add 1 to that counter. So my false guesses is equal to itself, and then I'm going to add 1 to it. Oh, I think this is where I highlight things, but really doesn't seem to make much of a difference. Right, so I haven't made any false guesses yet. Still haven't made any false guesses. Oh, local variable false guesses referenced before assignment. Ah, hang on a second. Let's maximize these two windows. They're getting a bit big now. Right. It's saying that it's referenced before assignment. That means that it can't find where I've initially put that variable false guesses. So it can't reach it where it's above that while loop. Let's have a look. Let's go to the program. Let's maximize that one as well. If I can from here. Brilliant. Now what it's not able to do is actually get hold of this false guesses. It can't reach it from inside that function. There are several ways that we could fix it. A bit like when we pass dashes through to check guesses. We could pass it through as a parameter, but actually I might need this false guesses later on with something I've got planned for a further part of the program. So I'm going to call it a global. And right at the top of the definition, I'm going to type the word global, it should go orange, and I'm going to type the name of the actual variable. And what this means is anywhere in that function, my code can use the variable false guesses, and it can change its value. Now I could have done this with dashes earlier, but I don't necessarily want that variable spread everywhere. Now let's see if it works. I'm going to have to stop highlighting stuff. Word not in dashes. Oh, I must have failed to get rid of a space after the A. Let's try it again. Let's go back to my code. F5. Doesn't contain it. 1. Let's keep guessing. 2. 6. Right. I'm quite happy now that it's going to count as many different times as I've got it. And I'll fix the word not in dashes afterwards. Let's go back. Now, It's brilliant I'm now counting them, but quite frankly, what I wanted to get it to do is to not actually continue on after about, let's say, 10 guesses. So if I've just got rid of that print statement, in this while loop, we want the found word to equal false, but we also want the number of false guesses to be, well, let's say less than 10. So in that while loop, if I type and, just after the false, there we go. Oh, it should go orange, so let's go for lowercase. Brilliant. False guesses is less than 10. So anything 10 or bigger is going to trigger that while loop to just finish. Right at the end, after that while loop is finished, if the number of false guesses is equal to 10, what have I gone back up there? Come on. If false guesses is equal to 10, we want to tell them that the game is over, that the man has been hung. That's it. They're out of chances. It's always useful to put these kind of error messages in. It's where your stop points are in your data flow diagrams, and these will actually help you track it as well and make sure that you're completing your program to what you planned. Invalid syntax. Yes, double equals Marshall for if statements, and you're comparing equals to. Okay. Oh, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 8, 9. Oh. If we make a couple of good guesses in the middle, I think that's processing now. Just to prove that it's working all the way through. Fab. So my game over now works if I'm just guessing letters. Now we'll have seen all the way through this one that actually it doesn't if the word is guessed. So we'll go through to that one next. Good luck making sure that the number of false guesses, and they can only try a certain number of times, works.